Hello everyone, my name is Ryan Taylor and I'm here to present my final project on autonomous cars. What are autonomous cars? They are self-driving cars. They do not require a driver and they are designed to operate as a fully functional car without a human component of actually driving the vehicle. Humans may or may not be passengers in the car, and fully autonomous cars do not require any human component besides setting the beginning and the end destination of the car. Some history of the autonomous cars. The first self-driving cars were created in the 1920s, and they primarily worked off of radio signals from other cars. So you could think of it as an old remote RC car. In the 1950s and 1980s, the idea began to grow, and during this time, the prototypes revolved around cars following a predetermined or wired track that was on the road. Around the 1980s to the early 90s, the idea of the self-driving cars also started to take shape of what we see today on the roads. They are independent of wire tracks and remote controls. Multiple government-funded supported bills helped shape the future of the industry. The whole idea for the government funding started with the military vehicles, and they wanted to get them from point A to point B in hazardous terrain, and they decided that it'd be best if they could do it by themselves. In 2010, the highly functional prototypes were unveiled, which is what we would know today as the Google cars or the Tesla cars. So how do they work? There's three main types of technology in the self-driving cars: the sensors, the connectivity, and the software and control algorithms. So we'll start with the sensors. They are used to monitor the surrounding cars as it moves by using the sensors. In Tesla, they use high-definition cameras. In Google, they use the LiDAR radar, which would be similar to an idea of what would a sub-radar would be. Many of these features are seen in today's cars on the road, such as the blind spot monitoring, parking assist, and the automatic braking systems all monitor the environments around the car. So in all of these cases, these sensors constantly are scanning the environment for anything that could change in the environment, whether it be cars, objects, anything like that. So connectivity also has certain aspects in cars on the road today, such as GPS. For self-driving cars, they have more info than just the GPS. Some of this more info includes weather, construction zones, and maps. So the more that these cars know through this connectivity, the better that they can perform. So for instance, with weather, if they know bad weather's coming, they may be able to perform a little bit better. So the software and the algorithms relates to the brains of the car, does all the decision making. It's the most important part of the car. It must be free of bugs and errors and have a 100% error-free rate. They must be ready to handle any possible situation that an unpredictable road could throw at them, such as debris or bad weather conditions. So some of the current leaders in the industry are Tesla and Google. They're leading the charge. Audi and Delphi, which makes GM cars, as well as Volvo, have promised fully autonomous cars. In the future, some of the ideas that they have been stating is having self-driving cars only under certain conditions. So when bad weather hits, the drivers actually do have to drive still. There's still one big hurdle for the self-driving car industry, though: the laws and regulations. Self-driving cars are not yet legal nationwide. As of 2017, there's 21 states that have enacted and passed some sort of legislation for self-driving cars. And despite the fact that it's not legal nationwide, automotive makers and lobbyists, as well as investors, are not slowing up the charge for research and investment. In September 2017, National Highway Transportation Safety Administration released federal guidance for self-driving car systems. It serves as a guidance for automakers and Department of Transportation at state levels for safety and best practices. The whole idea is to have the government and these automakers on the same page, so when it does become legal on a federal level, that everyone's up to date and that they could easily comply to certain regulations and laws. The current issues with self-driving cars, it comes to liability. Who is to blame when cars do wreck? When accidents occur, and even sometimes death, who takes the blame for that? The bad weather also can negatively affect these self-driving cars, and the testing is still not there yet. And how will these cars deal with some moral dilemma situations? So with the liability, with self-driving cars, it's going to change the landscape of the auto insurance industry. So there will always be one-offs where there's a situation where there's leading to a new crash, and a lot of the times the passengers must be able to show that the software and the technology in the car failed and was at fault for this wreck. And so this would also place the liability on the automakers and the producers. So with the bad weather, obviously another big issue for automakers is designing cars for all weather for these self-driving cars. The tough task is that the weather can be so unpredictable, as well as the road conditions. I think everyone knows that. With it being snowy or icy, anything like that, you just never know. The cameras and sensors can fail. It could be covered by snow. It could be damaged by hail. So there always needs to be a backup plan in place for when things like that happen. And it just requires a lot more testing and more time for those things to occur. That way that these self-driving cars can operate in bad weather safely. So another suggestion that I found during research was that passengers would be required to drive during bad weather and not just leave it up to the self-driving cars, and that they could be restricted. But the future goal is obviously to have these self-driving cars perform just as good or better than humans would in the inclement weather situations. So with the moral dilemma issue, it refers to the software and algorithms that make decisions for the car. Cars could be presented with options where a wreck is imminent and whether to kill the driver, or if it's going to drive into a group of people, and really what decisions to make at that point. But the thing with this is there's never a right answer for any of these moral dilemmas, and a lot more testing needs to be done so that when these situations do occur, the cars and the people around them would all come out safe in the end, and it wouldn't have to sacrifice one life for, say, 20, or if there was a group of people illegally crossing the street. But there definitely needs to be more testing with these in order to cover all these situations, even though that they are small percentage situations. Some of the pros of self-driving cars is that most accidents are due to human error. I think around 94%. These self-driving cars can eliminate emotional driving, drunk driving, and speeding, three of the top reasons that wrecks do occur. Self-driving cars can also lead to more efficient roadways and less traffic jams. So you think about a lot of traffic jams occur because of wrecks on the side of the road or cars breaking down. These self-driving cars would be able to hopefully be the solution to the issue of traffic jams. So my stance on self-driving cars is I think they can be a positive for the future. They have to address the issue with bad weather driving, not just being able to drive in a sunny, nice day. I think that the legal system and the government needs to be prepared to keep up with technology. I think that we all see that it's a slow-moving legal system, and that technology is rapidly growing every day. And I think that for everything to work for self-driving cars, the legal system needs to be up to par with the technology that goes into these self-driving cars. The new laws must thoroughly explain the liability issues. I think that the moral dilemma circumstances need to be tested for more, and that the automakers need to make sure that these cars are going to be safe and can cover almost every situation that can be thrown at them in order for them to be safe on the road for everyone, not only the drivers but everyone else on the road. And I think that the jump to self-driving cars are not just going to be seen all at once. I think it's going to be slow and be done in increments. Like I said earlier in the presentation, you still see a lot of aspects of self-driving cars today. And I think that that's what's going to continue to happen until one day you will no longer actually have to drive. Here's my works cited, and thanks everyone for listening. And if you have any questions, please comment below.